Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, and all participants. Thank you for time giving to me in this session. Is very tough after the lunch time. Yeah, I hope that the topic is quite interesting for all of you. And this session, we have a very interesting topic related to the digitalization, navigating payment system to unlock the potential of digital economy in the era of continuous disruption. And more specifically, this breakout session took the special topic, Limitless, the future of payment, and what we are need to prepare. In this afternoon discussion, fortunately, we have four prominent speakers representing from regulator, operator, player, and also the supporting industry. The first, I want to introduce all of the speaker. The first speaker is Mr. Pungky Wibowo. Yes, usually I call Pak Pungky. Pak Pungky is Executive Director, serve as Department Head in Payment System Management Department. Welcome, Pak Pungky. And the second, before I move to another speaker, I want let me introduce Pak Pungky. Pak Pungky holds a PhD degree from University of Birmingham. He got a PhD degree in economics, in money, banking, and finance, and also he holds a master degree from University of Wollongong. Pak Pungky is very expert, especially in the payment system industry. For your information, he is the founding father of National Payment Gateway that Bank Indonesia introduced in 2014, Pak Pungky. And he also a formidable leader in creating, transforming from the cash social assistant to non-cash social assistant. I think he is a very, very right resource person for today's discussion. And the second speaker, I would like to introduce from Accenture, Mr. Anand Bindumadhavan. Welcome to Indonesia virtually. He is a principal director and payment lead for Southeast Asia, specializing in payments, card services, transaction banking, RTGS system, and national fast payment. With over 20 years experience in the industry, of course, he has successfully delivered several large-scale projects and outcome. And also operation to position bank to be more agile, relevant in the ever-changing world of payment. Thank you for your time, Mr. Anand. And the third speaker, we have Miss Aaralyn Tong. He is a regional director, Southeast Asia, WeChat Pay at Tencent. I think Miss Aaralyn is very suitable for discussion today, because she's representing from the industry, especially in retail payment. Aaralyn Tong is Regional Director, Southeast Asia WeChat Pay Tencent. She is responsible for key partnership, business development, and strategy for Southeast Asian market, working alongside payment partners, merchant, government, to drive digitalization for fintech and payment ecosystem. As you may know, Tencent is leading Chinese internet services company with over 1.2 billion monthly active user on WeChat. And WeChat,
Halo, suaranya nggak kedengaran?
Mas Ameriza, suaranya nggak kedengaran.
Thank you, Pak Pungky. I think for the fourth speaker, let me introduce Mr. Dilip Asbe. He is the Managing Director and CEO of National Payment Corporation of India. Prior to this, he was the Chief Operating Officer of NPCI. He has played pivotal role in designing, building, and operationalization and management of large-scale innovative payment processing platform. As you may know, like immediate payment services, other enable payment system, India homegrown card network RuPay, and much acclaimed unified payment interface. I think UPI is very famous in Indonesia, yeah, because Bank Indonesia want to follow your success story. And he was awarded many from reputable institution like Changemaker of the Year Award for Revolutionary Product UPI, and also IT Award 2018. And last one is Financial Express Award in Fintech Technology. This is the introduction. And I think the today's topic are very interesting and relevant to the current situation. As you may know that we are suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic. And in this topic, we believe that payment system, especially digital payment ecosystem, plays a more important role in creating and accelerating the digital transformation in a country, especially in the area of payment and finance, digital economy. So for the first speaker, I want to give Pak Pungky as the first speaker. Maybe Pak Pungky, could you please elaborate, to all of us what the central bank strategy in response digitalization era, especially for getting the benefit from the digital economy. On the other hand, also try to mitigate the risk from the pandemic COVID-19, Pak Pungky. Time is yours. You may answer my question after this bumper, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Pak Ameriza, for your introduction, and thank you very much for all the panelists in this opportunity. I would like to answer your question, Pak Ameriza. What's the role of the central bank for the digital payment transaction in Indonesia, especially during the outbreak of the COVID-19 disease? I would like to say that as a central bank would like to offer to the people, to the society, the integrative solution for the digital payment. So what we would like to do, what we are doing right now, and what we plan to do with the payment system industry in the future is to offer the integrative solution for the digital payment. I would like to explain several slides for my presentation. Please, slide 3, please.
Pungky, your time is 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Digital transformation of payment system in the future. Next. I would like to explain about the background, digital transaction statistic a bit, and Indonesian payment system IPS blueprint 2025, and the development of BFAS, and also the conclusion. Okay, we go to slide number 3. For the background, we could see that from the data there up on the top there, on the top table, due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 disease, all the economic growth of countries around the world has a decrease, and also of course in Indonesia, you could see that there is a decrease as well in the Indonesian economic growth. But lately, it picked up again, even not in the same speed when it decreased, but we have a hope. We could see the end of we could see a light at the end of the tunnel. And we think, and I think for sure, it is also mainly caused by digitalization in the way affect the people do the payment behavior. You could see from the picture below that due to the health protocol, there are two things happen after the COVID-19 disease. First is physical distancing, and second is large-scale social scale protection. These two activities has caused the economic activity decrease, and due to the economic activity decrease, it affects all the people in Indonesia, but especially for the SMEs industry. But also, it's not just only affect the economic growth, decrease the economic growth, but it also has a blessing in disguise, quote unquote, for the opportunity during the COVID-19. What it is? It is the increased public acceptance for digital ecosystem. And the second one is raise non-physical means of payment. So the acceptance of non-cash transaction become very important, and people start aware how to protect themselves by doing not face-to-face transaction, but through the payment infrastructure, do the transaction through ATM, do the transaction through the mobile banking. So the acceptance of non-cash transaction increased significantly in Indonesia. They start using the electronic money. They're more often using the debit card, the ATM card, and also it is supported by the spread of EDC in Indonesia, the spread of ATM, and the introduction of the mobile banking, which already started several years ago. Next. Slide number 4, please. Okay, for the digital transaction, statistic you could see that from 2019 to 2020, digital banking transaction, especially economic transaction, e-commerce transaction, electronic money transaction, grew significantly, accounted by 28.13%, 10.07%, and 0.36% year on year. We could see that there is this significant jump in the acceptance of digital payment by user and merchant also has to be supported by the infrastructure, especially for the retail payment. They need what you call it fast payment. They put they want what you call it. My transaction has to be settled. My transaction has to be done, and my partner could accept my money, could accept my my fund within real time, and it will increase the velocity of money in Indonesia. Why I mentioned about the increase the velocity of money, because by increasing velocity of money, of course, the GDP, the economic growth also increase significant parallelly. You could see from the use of merchant acceptance of e-money. Now it's almost 5.2 million people. And also the national merchant repository increased dramatically, as you could see at the bottom on the right. It means that our people, especially SMEs, start using start using the electronic money, start using the other channel of payment, and they feel safe of doing it. And it is opportunity of digital transaction in Indonesia. Next. If I related with the Indonesian payment system blueprint in 2025, as already explained by our governor, there are 5. First is the integration of national digital economy and finance. Second, digital transformation within the banking industry. The third, interlink between fintech and banks. And the fourth is the balance among innovation, consumer protection, integrity, and stability, as well as for competition. For this point 4, I related with our colleague before, our panelist before, Mr. Timothy from Citibank. He mentioned about the main important thing is data security and data protection. But we mentioned it's not just only protection and security, but also the innovation. But it has to be supported by security and also the protection for the people. And the 5th one is national interest on cross-border use of digital economy and finance. Due to these 5 strategy for Indonesian blueprint payment system blueprint in 2025, we have 5 main initiatives: Open API standard, Retail payment it will be supported by infrastructure, BE fast infrastructure, UPI, Unified Payment Interface application, and also quick response Indonesian standard. I already mentioned that the merchant that we have for the non-cash transaction, they start using e-money, they start using debit through the channel, not just only EDC, but also CRIS. The third one is high value for the payment system. So we start link not just only we not just only promote the retail payment, but also for promote for the high value payment system. And it is also involves financial market infrastructure and the efficiency. And the fourth one, and the most important thing for us as a central bank, we will gather the data. And the data will be gathered through the payment ID and data hub, as mentioned by our colleague Yanti. And the fifth one is adaptive regulation with innovation. All the innovation has to be supported and has to be tested based on the security, but also it has to, what you call it, legal ground. So we have to support this infrastructure, we have to support the market conduct, but it is also, we as central bank will support with the regulation as well. Next. I will emphasize on the retail payment. This is what you call it, I already mentioned about the BE Fast. BE Fast will hand in hand for the retail payment with the national clearing system for the retail values in Bank Indonesia. We call it System Clearing National Bank Indonesia or SKNBI, and also the National Payment Gateway, which is run by the industry. This BE Fast will have what you call it front end through the UPI. I think our colleague from India, NPCI, I already met him, and we discussed about how this UPI could establish what you call it intercorrelation and interconnection among all the transactions for the retail payment industry in Indonesia. So there is no island anymore in Indonesia. All the payment system services could be settled through this system. And how we communicate with the industry, of course, through application program interface, or you call it API. You could see API is the API and application program interface and UPI. It is in the middle of in the middle end, and the BE Fast in this back end. In the front end, we will do transaction through all channels, through ATM, through EDC, through handphone, internet, and through CRIS, and through the agent. Next. For the development of BE Fast, you could see that we have the system right now. Of course, we as a central bank, we have real-time gross settlement. We have your clearing house for the retail payment. We call it SKNBE. We have National Payment Gateway for the retail payment run by the industry. And it is also supported by the electronic money. This is we have what you call it the operation and settlement. It is conducted for certain time during the days, and also who is the end customer I presented here in the slide, and the front end for channel. So we have electronic channel, we have teller, electronic channel, teller also supported by EDC, ATM, agent, and e-channel. Also the mobile phone. Next. For the development of BE Fast, for the current condition, you could see from the table here. We would like to have what you call it fast fund transfer services, and we will open for 24/7 operation, and we will satisfy ISO 20022, and we will adopt the API technology, and also we would like to establish the what you call it the interconnection and interoperability for the BE Fast. We for the expected ideal condition for the BE Fast, it has to be real-time settlement, 24/7 and operated 365 days during the year, and utilization of technology standard that are open and easy to interconnect, and also implementation of service standard for customer in the form of notification. I answer what Pak Timothy concerned for interoperability for the consumer protection and data security. The gap that we really notify here for the establishment of BFAS is that no service are limited. The transaction there is capping here. What happened in our system in right now? Each channel access limitation, including mobile banking. Not every banks, not every service provider which is not banks have what we call it the mobile bank with the complete services. So we would like to establish the BFAS with the characteristic, as I mentioned before, 24/7, 605 days operation, real time, and it is it must be could be upgraded as we need it. The use of proxy address, using of API, and track. We will able to trace the transaction and notification for beneficiary customer. So you know about the BFAS. You know the settlement mechanism right now. You know the services will include the credit transfer and debit transfer. The membership is mandate, but there is there are two participants, direct participants and non-direct participants and non-direct participants. The feature you could see, the standard we would like to satisfy is ISO 27001 and 222. The liquidity management we also concern. It must have to manage settlement funds in the RTGS window time, and the function of setting a minimum balance and a warning features when the balance reaches the certain limit. Liquidity management also become our concern when during the outside RTGS operation. The capacity of the BFAS will cover 31.7 million transactions and a minimum processing of 2,000 transactions per second. So to 2,000 TPS, we would like to apply for BFAS. As a conclusion, the central bank will do what you call it as a plan for the BFAS and unified payment interface by optimize what you call it blessing in disguise due to the outbreak of COVID-19 to promote the non-cash transaction. The second one, we do believe as a central bank, we have important role to lead digital transformation in the payment ecosystem in order to modernize Indonesian retail payment infrastructure to be capable of processing digital transaction required by all economic agents. And the third one, the present of BFAS, and later will be accompanied by unified payment interface atau integration consolidated payment and embodiment of IPS as implementation of the Indonesian payment system blueprint 2025. We will encourage establishment of full interconnection and interoperability in payment and financial services for all institutions. So here is our plan as a central bank, and we do believe we will offer integrated solution to promote non-cash transactions. I'm looking forward for discussion after all this presentation. Thank you very much, Pak Ameriza.
Pungky, thank you very much. Very clear your presentation, and I think a very insightful conclusion. Yeah, you clearly stated that the central bank has an important role to lead transformation, digital transformation, especially in creating and providing the sophisticated infrastructure in payment. You already explore, especially in the area of the retail payment, and also the keyword, the important thing that we have to note that interconnectivity and interoperability is very, very important in the creating the ecosystem. So I think we can move to the next speaker. The next speaker, Ms. Anand, Mr. Anand. As you may know, he working at the Accenture. Accenture is like a consultant company, yeah, a leading consultant firm that provide the IT solution, especially for the area in finance and payment area, including fintechs. I heard that Accenture just published a paper regarding future of payment and provide some insight for the companies to survive in this pandemic era. And I hope that you also can explain more detail about what the significant impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, especially on the payment industry. I think this is, my question, and then you can elaborate from your presentation. Time is yours.
Thank you. I hope all of you are doing well. Would like to say selamat pagi to everyone, right? So today I'm going to talk about the ways that COVID-19 is impacting payments, right? Of course, the impact is quite large. We've at least categorized 10 critical impacts, right? So I'm going to take you through that quickly. In general, right, before we get to the specifics of the COVID-19 impact, in general, what has been happening in the payments market, it is constantly changing, right? From our point of view, there are 5 driving forces that are constantly changing payments, right? Number 1 is consumers, the changing behavior of consumers. Consumers are more moving from cash and checks to digital payments. That has already been happening for a while, probably even in the last 10 years. But there are a number of markets which are still predominantly using cash and Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Yeah. So I was talking about the 5 forces driving change in payments constantly, and the first one being the consumer behavior, right? Be it a retail consumer or a corporate customer, right? Both types of customers are actually moving towards a digital first experience, right? Predominantly moving towards electronic and mobile payments compared to the cash and checks from the past, right? That's number 1. The second force that is driving a change in payments constantly is the increasing competition, right? A lot of fintechs are coming up. A lot of initiatives like open banking are giving an opportunity for a number of fintechs to come in. And as a result, there is quite a bit of pressure on the margins, right? So definitely fee compression is an aspect that all financial institutions will have to take into account. Also, unlike other industries, right, here we definitely have constant regulatory impact, right? So the recent one being the announcement of SWIFT to move to ISO 2022, plus the announcement of a number of RTGS systems to move to ISO 2022 as well, right? So on one hand, that impacts your technology inside the bank, but also the other new developments like real-time payments is also definitely impacting you in a way that you have to now move away from your legacy systems to more modern and 24/7 systems, right? So 2022 and real-time payments are becoming the technology standard, right? Plus regulation, right? And a number of countries, including Indonesia, are actually looking at open banking, right? So that's one form of regulation, but there are a number of other regulatory aspects that we need to always cater to, right? So that drives change in payments as well. But also from a bank's own business point of view, right? The returns from any modernization are actually lagging behind the investment hours, right? So a modernization requires quite a significant investment. However, the return is not immediate. So how do we tackle all this, right? So prior to COVID, these are the 5 primary forces driving the change in payments. But now if we move on to the next slide, right? We will see that COVID and the ongoing pandemic has changed this landscape completely. Can we move to the next slide, please? So what has happened is within these 5 forces, the impact is even more huge, right? Accenture did a survey among all the top banks in almost about 200 countries, right? So the survey results actually pointed out that during the COVID pandemic, 60% of consumers are using contactless payments. 58% are already using in-app, payment experience, right? Ordering in-app and paying in-app as well. And almost 50% of them are shopping via social media, right? Social media like, Facebook platforms, right? It's not just that, but the survey also pointed out a very interesting phenomena, right? That post-COVID, these customers are going to increasingly use these type of instruments, right? So 91% have confirmed that they're going to continue using contactless payments. 89% have confirmed that they will use in-app ordering, and 87% are going to move to social media-based shopping, right? So which means that the COVID pandemic has triggered a phenomenal move to digital payments, right? That is undeniable, right? On the other hand, from a competition point of view, right? While this is not directly related to COVID, this is more related to the onboarding of many fintechs in the payments world. COVID also has some impact to it. Basically, the merchant services fee for transactions, right? Both debit and credit card transactions have been coming down significantly, right? So it goes back to the fact that margins are still eroding, right? On top of that, the average price for credit transfers have also significantly decreased, right? You can see that from almost 20 cents, it has now come to 8 cents, right? So these are in euros, and these examples are from SEPA, right? But the same phenomenon can be observed in other markets as well, right? And needless to say, real-time payments are free in most of the markets, right? So how will banks make money if this is the situation, right? So let's go into the next slide. So if we move on to the next slide. So the other aspects, the other 3 forces, right? As I said, technology. I already mentioned SWIFT, and a number of RTGS systems are moving to ISO 2822, driving significant changes in technology. But if you look at the real-time payment scenario, right, 52 countries around the world have already adopted real-time payments, right, one form or the other, and 7 countries are in the planning phase, right? We also heard, from Pungky that, BI Fast is also coming up, right? So that is going to be a very interesting evolution for Indonesia, right? And then when we look at regulation, we know definitely that, there are at least the 2 predominant regulatory changes that are driving significant investment in payments is, of course, number 1 is open banking, and number 2 is data protection, right, or data privacy, right? So you can see that in the UK, obviously, the open banking directive is sort of gone mainstream, and as a result, everybody is now able to use open banking. There are a lot of aggregators in play now. But also across Europe, right? There are platforms that now enable open banking. So Italy is one good example where banks have come together to set up a platform that will enable them to reduce their investment in open banking, right? So while there is regulatory pressure, this pressure also drives some form of collaboration among among banks, right? Typically, banks are in the competitive space, but they also recognize that when they collaborate, there is some utility cost that they can avoid. So in other countries, obviously, Hong Kong and Australia, the open banking initiatives are progressing. They're going to come pretty soon. And obviously in this part of the world, Southeast Asia, we're also talking about Malaysia and Indonesia pretty soon coming up with some form of open banking related activity, right? Singapore just did a test in the in what is called as open API marketplace, right? So at least um, consumers will be able to view their balances across multiple banks, right? So that's the first open banking initiative that is going live pretty soon in Singapore, but we expect that it's going to be followed by a number of other initiatives, right? Again, this one, the fifth point quickly, right? While 92% of banks agree with the fact that the payments modernization is a key aspect of their strategy, only 30% have really seen any significant return, right? So it's still quite a challenging story for banks, right? So we move on to the next slide, right? What is also very interesting about this COVID situation is that this is the one pandemic that has significantly created an impact on the bank's balance sheet compared to any other pandemic before, right? So the market capitalization of many financial institutions have significantly dropped because of this pandemic, right? And I'll explain how, right? So if we move on to the next slide, right? So in the next slide, we will see that, can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So in the next slide, we will see that we are comparing the market capitalization of the top 90 global banks, right? And the events we are taking into consideration are the 2008 crisis, right? So the 2008 economic crisis, the 2009 flu pandemic, the 2012 MERS virus, right? The Ebola virus, as well as COVID, right? The line in purple represents the impact of COVID on the market capitalization. And you can see that that impact is almost as bad or even worse than the 2008-2009 financial crisis, right? So you can see that at the very end, right? The purple line is just about to cross the black line, right? So it's a very interesting situation for financial institutions. So again, it is all not completely negative news, right? So let me quickly move on to the next slide to summarize the impact, right? So we've seen that, I talked about consumers compression, etc. So we've already talked about that. Consumer spending has dramatically slowed, right? While consumers are moving to electronic forms of transactions, right? So number two is about the decrease in consumer spending, while number five is really about the reduced usage of cash, right? So these two are slightly linked as well. The key markets, right? Europe, number one, is about the impact on key markets. So Europe, US, and to some extent even China is significantly impacted by COVID, obviously, because the revenues from payments, the number of payment transactions initially decreased. However, subsequently, because e-commerce and online shopping increased, the market sort of rebounded a bit, right? So we already talked about item number 4, which is the compression in fee revenues. But what I would like to point out is that, because of the increase in digital payments, there is also a significant increase in fraudulent activity, right? So the conditions are really highly favorable for fraud. That's number 7 that I'm talking about. As a result, a lot of financial institutions are focusing on number 6, which is how do you tokenize payments and how do you sort of anonymize the data inside these payments so you can achieve 2 things, right? One is, of course, tokenization addresses concerns around fraud to some extent, but also tokenization addresses the data privacy issue, right? Again, number 6 and 7 go hand in hand. But one of the experiences, right? One of the interesting phenomenon that everybody observes recently is the embedded payment experience, right? Whereby, the likes of Grab or Uber, right? You book a taxi and you get into the taxi and get out of the taxi and the payment is already executed, right? So you get into an Amazon store, you buy the things and you get out of the Amazon store and the goods are automatically paid for, right? So that is what is called as the embedded payment experience, and that is becoming very, very popular on the retail side, while on the corporate side as well as significant payments in the retail side, consumers and corporates demand more control over the payments, right? Like out of band authorization. So for example, you make a payment over your internet banking portal or corporate banking portal, and you get a authorization notification on your mobile and you authorize the payment and you release it, right? So this will significantly provide comfort in terms of executing the payment, but also it will increase security and prevent fraud, right? While blockchain has always been, I mean, number 10, while blockchain has always been sort of a hot topic, but it's never kind of been able to crack the payments world. Now, we see use cases emerging where a number of payment operators, right, national payment operators are considering using blockchain for both domestic and cross-border payments, right? So my last slide. So with all these, fee compression, with all this margin erosion, I'd like to move on to the next slide, please. With all of this, how do you remain in the game? What do you think about doing next, right? So the first thing we would say is the payments market is quite huge, right? There are still, and of course, not just the payments market, the banking market, right? The pie for the banking market is quite huge, right? There's still a lot of unbanked, there's still a lot of underbanked customers. So as financial institutions or as banks, our advice would be to make it easier for you, for your customers, right? Your unbanked and underbanked customers to reach you, right? So make it easier for them to connect with you, right? So provide mobile-based solutions, provide SMS-based solutions, provide telephonic solutions, maybe, right? So that is one, right? Because one, cash usage is declining, but 2, because of COVID, physical payment methods are also significantly hampered, right? And then these unbanked and underbanked customers need a way to make their payments, need to buy goods, right? Including small and medium enterprises. So you need to accelerate your digital drive, right? That's our first recommendation, right? But while you are increasing that move to digital, right? You need to make sure that you also address the fraud situation, right? So that means you need to increase your capabilities to detect and prevent fraud. You need to have capacity to effectively counter fraud. But at the same time, again, one of the ways to achieve that is to move towards tokenization of payments, right? So that's one thing. Pungky already talked about interoperability, and again, our one of our panel speakers, Dilip, will also talk about UPI, right? UPI is a great example of how, interoperability has been achieved, right? Because of UPI, multiple wallets can talk to each other, multiple banks can send faster payments to each other, etc. So there is seamless interoperability between the ecosystem players, right? Between wallets, between merchants, between banks, between consumers, etc. So that has to be adopted, right? Don't see either faster payments or open banking initiatives as a threat to your business. Just adopt them because they enable interoperability. And as banks, you will find multiple new use cases, and you will be able to launch new products and increase your customer experience, right? So I'm going to stop there, right? Because that's our sort of advice to the FI market here, right? Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Anand. Maybe because in Indonesia bahasa, Mr. is usually called Pak. Let me call you Pak Anand, ya. Okay, Pak Anand, thank you for your time, your presentation.
Thank you.
It's very interesting conclusion, ya. Similar to Pak Pungky earlier, that the importance of the interoperability, and there is additional conclusion that I think that it is very important too. That is the importance of exploring new blockchain use cases, yeah, and co-create a solution targeting real pain point. The next speaker, I want to move to Miss Aaralyn. Miss Aaralyn working at the Tencent. As we may know that Tencent is a leading Chinese internet services and technology company. Based on the Pak Anand presentation, there are 5 forces driving the changes in payment, and one of the factor is technology. And this the next discussion I want to explore from the from the Tencent point of view, how Tencent leverage the technology in order to grow the business across the industry. And maybe related to the question, we would like to know also how the Tencent provide the more user experience product, yeah, in order to make customer satisfaction. Please, Ms. Aaralyn, time is yours.
Thank you so much. Hi everyone, thanks for your time, and thanks for the kind invite. It's great to be here. And I think this question, which is that how does Tencent leverage the technology? I think it's a great question. And at the heart of Tencent and WeChat, we are an open ecosystem. And what is key to us is that we are not just growing our own business across the industry, but more importantly, how are we helping our partners, merchants, acquirers, businesses to grow their business through our technology as well. So could I just bring on the slides, please? Thank you so much. Yes, so I think in my next couple of slides, just one slide back, just going to share a bit about Tencent as an overview. And we also do a deep dive into the key pillars of WeChat's ecosystem. And I think the second key takeaway here is I'm going to share some case studies in terms of how our business partners in Southeast Asia have navigated the challenges of this pandemic through WeChat's payment platform and our entire ecosystem. Just now, Anand mentioned about the embedded payments experience, and we actually have a couple of success stories here that leverages the entire ecosystem solutions and tools. So here, I think in a nutshell, what does Tencent do? And as shared, right, we are a multinational company, and we have actually a whole bunch of different verticals. So some of the key ones include communications and social. This is where WeChat and Weixin, or the QQ applications, sit in. And we are also very strong in the gaming space. So as you know that we are one of the largest gaming companies, and some of the popular games as well also sit under Tencent Group. And beyond that, we are also involved heavily in media, fintech segment, and cloud services and utilities as well. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so in here, so just to deep dive into to WeChat, how does the ecosystem look like? I think most of you would know that WeChat is the leading super app in China. And it's really an all-in-one app that combines messaging, social media, you can work and do video calls, e-commerce, ride-hailing, everything in one single app. And today we've seen about 1.26 billion monthly active users, of which 900 million are actually using WeChat Pay today. So essentially it's one single app that you can do everything you ever want in a single day without ever leaving your app. And central to WeChat's success is because this is an open ecosystem, right? And our platform has enabled millions of brands and creators to build services and products for our users. Next slide. Yeah. And who's kind of the guy and brains behind WeChat? And it's really all credits to this gentleman here called Aaralyn. He is the WeChat founder. And one thing he always evangelizes is that everything that we do at the company, it's about the user experience in mind. The value to the user is the key priority. And this is always the number one thing beyond just pure monetization or creating, profits, right? It's all about creating products and solutions that will really help businesses and help drive value to the user. And with that, you'll see a few more case studies later that, speaks to how this mantra manifests. Next slide, please. Yeah, so in the next 4 slides, I'll talk briefly about some of the WeChat key product pillars. There are really key 4 of them and how they drive growth for all partners. The first one here is what we call WeChat Moments or WeChat social media feed. And in the Western world, just think of it as the equivalent of a Facebook or an Instagram. And on Moments, WeChat Moments, brands are able to harness the power of big data to drive targeted ads. I've got 2 examples here. One is of Changi Airport Group, and this is one recent campaign they ran where they were looking at targeting only local Singaporeans for spending. And at the same time, beyond just the ads part, the social media community is very strong and very active, and people have been organically sharing a lot of product recommendations with their friends. And the 7-Eleven example on the right image here actually shows that. So we've got folks who are posting about this 7-Eleven WeChat Pay promotion that we see. And this really adds a very powerful social element for brands to engage with their users. Next slide. The second pillar here is the WeChat official account. And again, in the Western world, it looks very much like a WhatsApp business or a messenger for, a messenger app. And it's like a business chat, but on steroids. It's got a lot more commercial tools on it as well. And you've got brands such as Singapore Airlines, Paragon, and Apple. They've all built their own official accounts to gain their own followers. And they use it extensively to push deals and product news and even service their customers via AI chatbots. And what this means for brands is that this is a daily touch point where they can use it to build very strong connections with their customers. Just to the next slide, please. The third pillar that we have here is the WeChat mini programs, and how we see them is like a sub-application within one app. And the use cases are really very wide-ranging. They've got ride-hailing use cases, we've got food delivery use cases, e-commerce stores, we've got smart retail, smart map navigation, and a lot more. And all this creates is a very seamless all-in-one experience for the end user. And today, with COVID, we've seen that a lot more people are using the mini programs. And within this year, the GMV going through WeChat mini programs has actually gone up about 100%, more than 100% year to date. And moving on to the last slide here on the pillars. Next slide, please. It's WeChat payments. And really we support 2 things. One is P2P payments and P2M payments as well. And for P2P payments is where you can actually send your friend money by just texting him within the chat itself. So it's all really embedded within the user journey. So how does this 4 key pillars come together? You know, it's really, I think with COVID, everyone's looking for that embedded experience. It's like you want a seamless journey, right? And this is where, you know, these 4 key pillars come together to create a very good user experience. And I've got a few examples, real life examples to show later. But before I dive in, can we please move on to the next slide? I'll just talk briefly about 3 key trends that we see during COVID, you know, that has kind of changed the payments landscape. And of course, we all know that it has accelerated digitization and innovation. And as Pungky said, I couldn't agree more. He said that this is a blessing in disguise. And it's really true, right? And one of the key things is, you know, reduced cash is accelerated e-payments adoption. And beyond just QR payments, in some other markets, we're seeing a lot of people using more facial recognition payments, and markets are getting more open to it as well. And the other market besides China is actually Korea. And Korea, actually, one of our merchants there, it's Shinsegae DFS store. They actually launched facial recognition not too long ago as well. And we hear a lot of clients saying that, hey, you know, this is an area they want to explore going forward. The second key, you know, trend that we see here, it's also growth in QR use cases beyond just payments, right? In Singapore, every mall that you go into, you have to scan QR and then log in. And we're seeing digital menus pop up. And these days, we don't even exchange name cards so much anymore. You just scan the LinkedIn QR code to exchange contacts. And what this means for the payments industry is that if QR as a habit is getting more and more popular, and naturally with QR payments as well, it's really going to grow even faster than before. And the final key trend that we see is that more businesses are demanding for a integrated and more holistic integrated solution. You know, they're not looking at just purely payments itself, but they're looking at how they perhaps use WeChat's official account, the social media moments element, how do we use mini programs and payments, and all combining in one to create a superior user experience and to build a better customer connection. Okay, going on to the next slide, please. Yeah, and just now I mentioned about that combined integrated platform and how it's manifested through WeChat is what I mentioned about the mini programs earlier. And indeed, this was a news report just about a couple of weeks ago and on Singapore's Channel 8 News. So this is one of the most popular channels in Singapore, where you had professors who were talking about how more and more Singapore local businesses are using mini programs to grow their outreach, right? Because it creates that O2O, online to offline kind of engagement that is so key. And just next slide, please. Yeah, so in the next couple of slides, I'm just going to share about some of the real life use cases that local businesses have done by leveraging WeChat's ecosystem to grow their business during this pandemic. So these are all pandemic period cases. The first one is actually Paragon in Singapore. And you know, with Paragon, this is a peak period now, end of year, and their key goal is to drive more footfalls into their malls. And this month, they actually ran a local WeChat Pay campaign, and they drove targeted ads through that, you know, data-driven targeted ads to Singapore locals on WeChat Moments. And the user would see the ad, click on the ad, which leads them to Paragon's official account article, which talks about the mall and the key features. And one of the pain points that I think we all would identify with is language barriers, sometimes when we do commerce, right? And this is where WeChat's AI-based translation feature comes into the picture. So the second and the third image here actually shows an instant translation feature using AI. You just scan the image, click on translate, and it will automatically switch the entire content from Chinese to English in a matter of seconds. You know, and it's really just revolutionized the entire user experience for myself. And then finally, more importantly, is Paragon has been able to reach users by showcasing their brands on their own WeChat mini program. So this is a good use case of how data-driven advertising and AI translation comes together to serve the customer better. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is King Power in Thailand. So as you know, that Thailand is big on tourism, but there are zero tourist revenues right now. And what King Power wanted to solve for was to stay top of mind for customers, even in the absence of tourists. So what they did was they partnered with the Thailand Tourism Board. They created this game. This is a mini program game where users are able to collect coins. They're able to feature and explore Thailand's hotspots within the game, such as Bangkok and Phuket. And people could even buy Thailand souvenirs within the app as well and pay with WeChat Pay. So what comes together is a powerful combination of gamification and e-commerce in one single mini program use case. Next slide. Yeah. Now on to a F&B partner here. This is called Wibowo, a famous bubble tea in Singapore. And they recently ran a campaign in July with WeChat Pay as well, targeting local users. And what they did was the community within WeChat were actively sharing these offers with their friends on Facebook Moments, and the post went completely viral. You can see here that there are a lot of likes and a lot of comments about the campaign, and there's really not a lot of work that the merchant needs to do. It's completely taken on a life form in itself, where people would just going by word of mouth to share this amazing offer. So what this means, in terms of commerce is that when it's socially driven, it can so quickly grow your customer outreach. Next slide, please. And finally, we have Singapore Airlines, homegrown brand here. So again, they wanted to stay engaged with customers during COVID pandemic period. And in October, Singapore Airlines launched a video live streaming campaign using their mini program. So they had KOLs featuring holiday destinations, and also you are able to buy things during this format, during this campaign. And through this very entertaining sort of format, we saw some 38,000 viewers tune in the 1 hour, and SQ was able to benefit from very strong customer connection during this pandemic crisis. Next slide, please. And just this brings me to my last use case here. And I'll just highlight the one on the right, which is a regional mall operator in Southeast Asia. So this product is not launched yet, but very soon. So as you know, like now there's some limited travel and people have to be quarantined. So this mall operator, they actually partnered with a couple of quarantine hotels where they launched a WeChat official account. So a user, if you're quarantined in a hotel, you can use this official account to order things from the mall. It's like a digital concierge chat and shop kind of functionality. And the digital concierge would then, deliver the items to the hotel itself. So these are all new cases that is really innovative, and it's just showing how the entire ecosystem has evolved and used our ecosystem to grow together. Just to my last slide, please. Last slide. Yeah, so I think in essence, to sum up, you've seen how we work with a multitude of partners, from SMEs to enterprises as well. And to WeChat, success is all about growing with our partners. And as we are an open ecosystem, anyone can build an official account mini program on WeChat. And what this means for the future of payments is that we think that future is not going to be just about payments alone, but it's going to be an experience where social needs advertising, needs smart retail, needs payments. And all of this is underpinned by big data and AI technology. And ultimately, what's going to happen for the end user is that they're going to get a more seamless online to offline experience. And for businesses, beyond just driving traffic, they're able to build a very strong customer connection as well. So with this, I hope the insights were helpful. Thanks. I would just like to end my presentation here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aaralyn. I think it's very interesting that Tencent seems very successfully to adopt the latest technology, sophisticated technology related to digital transformation. Tencent provides many key products that I believe that it will satisfy the customer. And the next speaker, I'm going to move to Mr. Dilip Asbe. as we know that India has a success story related to the creating a national payment system by introducing the UPI. And related to the success story, maybe there is some question. What other initiative or infrastructure or product that you think we need to build in order to develop and catch up the new normal era? And for your information, Pak Pungky right now is working on the how to create the retail payment infrastructure, and will implement like UPI that we call it ITP. I think your information is very fruitful, especially for Bank Indonesia. And then time is yours, please. Please unmute.
Sorry. I thank Bank Indonesia to invite me for this forum, and a lot of things have been spoken till now, and Mr. Pungky, Anand, and Mr. Aaralyn, and after that, I will also do a small presentation briefly to explain what we are doing in India and how the payment system is evolving. Can you please put up the presentation? Can you go to the next slide, please? So in India, the RBI is the Reserve Bank of India, which is the central bank here, is driving a lot of innovation, and that keeps, the innovation-led policies keeps all the players like NPCI on the toe to do better and continue to improve our systems. The RBI publishes the strategy vision paper for payments every 3 years. They have been doing so last 15 years now. And the easy job for NPCI is, pick up what they write back in the vision paper and just execute those things, which is what we've been doing very successfully last few years. They have started various new institutions such as the payment banks. They have started new categories to license the fintechs like bill payment operators or prepaid payment issuer operators or various other entities. They have started the new entities licensing, and what happens is these new entities kind of contribute back to the payment system with their thinking, their innovation, and which kind of helps the ecosystem. The paperless KYC guidelines have been in place now, and we believe is a big driver. RBI authorizes all new payment systems, and thanks to RBI's vision, the payment systems are fully interoperable in India. There are no islands, there are no closed loop payment systems. So if a person has a particular bank or RBI license authority instrument, he can go back and transact anywhere because he gets the full network access right from day zero. The digital banking ombudsman, Anand was talking about the frauds and support customer grievances in the digital world, and RBI has started obviously the ombudsman was there right from the beginning, but recently RBI has started the digital banking ombudsman as well. Obviously, some of the other things like regulatory sandbox and other new initiatives, account aggregator, which we believe is going to be playing a big role for consumer to leverage their data and avail the services at better prices. So these are the initiatives which has been started by RBI. Can we go to the next slide, please? So NPCI is started by RBI in about 12 years back. RBI asked the Indian Banking Association and top banks in the country to start the NPCI as a not-for-profit entity, which is a public good. So whatever we do, we don't pass back the profits back to the shareholder, but we redeploy the profits into the new things what we are trying to do in terms of payment system, investments, creating infrastructure, and other things. Currently, we are broad-based to 48 banks, and as we speak, we have also undertaken the initiative to also have the expand the shareholding to the remaining banks and the non-banks, right? So that would mean that NPCI is owned by every stakeholder in the country. Can you go to the next slide, please?
Sekarang dia kurang lebih berapa menit sampai lokasi?
Yeah, thank you. NPCI has built up some of the payment systems what you are able to see on the slides, and we as a country has a very diverse population at different income levels, diverse population at different education levels, understanding levels. So the country like this requires a different payment systems because the different needs from different segment of the customers or the citizens arises. And we believe right from the beginning of NPCI that the consumer has a choice to use the whichever payment system he intends to wish to use, right? So we have launched various payment systems, and you may see on the screen right from building the direct benefit transfer for the government, giving the solution the financial inclusion customers to go back to the last mile in any tier village and withdraw the access his bank account using the Aadhaar biometrics, Aadhaar-based biometric solutions to avoid the social or social economic issues. You would look at the domestic cards payment scheme, RuPay. You would look at UPI. You look at Bharat Bill payment system. You would look at the National Common Mobility Card, which we have launched for the transit. We are also doing the electronic toll collection for cashless toll collection back from the vehicle in motion at the toll plaza. And obviously, these are the payment systems. Some of them are recently started. Some of them have been started last 3-4 years. But the idea is constant evolution and revolution of payment system. That's what we believe that is what is the mandate given by the RBI and the government to NPCI, and our job is to constantly innovate, constantly provide the payment systems that will fulfill the consumer needs. Can you go to the next slide, please? So we spoke about Bhim UPI here, and the UPI is a real-time payment system which is being used by over 150 million in India, and it is a payment system. When we started thinking of, obviously most of the countries look at launching the real-time payment system which has person-to-person payments, but we felt that the person-to-merchant payments, which is predominantly the retail transactions, are very important to be part of the real-time payment systems. Otherwise, the customer has to choose the different payment systems for person-to-person transfers and person-to-merchant transfers. So we are very clear that it has to be together. So UPI, fortunately, allows to have this together. And for the P2M transaction, it also allows the asset light QR code based payments, which for the country of India is very important, because taking the physical POS machine to every nook and corner of the country, such a large country, is virtually impossible stage. Again, I said that this is fully interoperable. It allows banks to play a role. It allows non-banks to play a role in a fully interoperable manner. In fact, UPI is one of the first systems that, it kind of brings the collaboration between the banks and fintechs or large techs together. And, both plays the roles according to their strengths back in the ecosystem. Looking at the COVID situation, and every country, most of the countries in the world are realizing that, how critical it is to have the domestic payment railroads to process the payments in a very, very cost efficient manner, right? Because there are small merchants, there are poor people in the developing world, and they may not be able to afford all the fee based and the large value payment systems the way it has been designed. And that's where the need of the real-time, low-cost real-time payment systems, which involves the P2P and P2M based payments, is super critical for a country for to deal with the pandemics like COVID. And in India as well, the UPI was used in a big way during the pandemic, and the customer used it for the cash less. Cashless payments, contactless payments. UPI supports various payment systems like the scan and pay, the link-based payments, and various in-app payments, various mechanisms which are possible back in UPI. There are about 50 plus UPI apps available back for Indian consumers, so they can download any of the apps and start using on a day zero basis. Can you move to the next slide, please? And this is a slide wherein we are trying to indicate that how similar the India and Indonesia is. And whether you look at the large population, the smartphone penetration, the hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, please continue, Mr.
Yeah. So when you look at this slide, you would see that the India and Indonesia is so similar, and because of this similarity, both are developing nations trying to grow on the world map, and a payment system like UPI or UPI like system can actually drive a lot of economic growth, a lot of consumption. It will support increasing the consumptions and drive the need of creating a lot of digital data on which a lot of credit decisions can be taken back in both the countries. And I think that the value what the UPI has delivered back for the India as a national public good. I'm sure the Indonesian Bank Indonesia, and I heard from Mr. Pungky that they are in the process of building something like UPI, and we would be more than glad to support Indonesia to achieve their endeavor. And there is a need, there is a strong need to have a real-time payment system which is very, very cost efficient and which would leverage the smartphone penetration, the voice-based payments, the IVR-based payments in a big way. Next slide, please. Today we are looking at the payment ecosystem, and we heard from Aaralyn as well. The payment ecosystem has been evolving like ever, right? We look at various new things are coming, open banking, the blockchain as a technology, the AR, VR, the artificial intelligence, the contactless. So we are seeing that the payment system is actually looking at this whole, the new horizon, and we believe that the payment systems worldwide will have to embrace these new technologies so that the consumer experience, which again the very impressive presentation from Aaralyn, that the whole consumer experience can be taken into the next level, right? And this is where I believe the next growth of the payment system in the developing countries will be driven from the new technology, the Internet of Things, the contactless payments, and using some of the new technologies like blockchain and AI. Next, please. Next slide, please. And if you look at again the payment system, while somebody was building a payment system, it was it has to, the traditional payment systems are built using looking at the one stakeholder at a time, and that's how the payment systems are built. But the reason to put up this slide that the today's the new age payment system is not looked at any one stakeholder. It is not looked at one player, one type of players, but it is kind of created as a ecosystem level thinking or ecosystem level collaboration. Today the way we see that the banks and fintechs are two critical aspects of this, and they've been kind of playing role in a big way as far as India is concerned, and I'm sure a lot of other places we see that collaboration is growing further and further. So when we build the payment ecosystem, it has to be encompassing the all the players in the market, and it has to create like an ecosystem, right? And this is what we keep talking about in India, right? Various product which NPCI is building is kind of built kind of grown by the banks, the fintechs, the supported by the regulator and the government innovation-led policies. So it's kind of takes all the stakeholders together and trying to drive and scale up the payment system. Obviously, being said that, we as a country we kind of are still in the growth, and I believe that will continue for next 5 to 10 years time. And we believe that some of the issues like the risk management, the cyber security, the fraud management, the customer education, all these things will require a huge amount of education back in the developing countries, so that the consumer is fully aware while accessing the money back from his digital phone, that what are the do's and don'ts, and how he can use the money in a safe and secure manner. In India, we are strongly working on all these aspects, and believe that many of the developing countries like Indonesia could collaborate with us to learn from the journey what we have traveled last few years. Okay, can you go to the next slide? I think I'm done with this. Yeah, so thank you so much for giving me opportunity to participate in this panel. It has been a experience hearing from some of the panel members, and thank you again.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dilip. We are running over time, but at least we have 10 minutes for discussion. I have one question. I think the question is for Pak Pungky and for Pak Dilip. It is related to the how you manage and how you strike the balance between the industry point of view and regulator, because sometimes the issue is the conflict of interest between the regulator, because some authorities believe that the payment, some part of payment activity can be categorized as the public utility, and the other hand, the industry see the payment is highly cost investment. So how you manage and you strike the right balance between the regulator point of view and industry? Maybe Pak Pungky and Pak Dilip, you can explore your insight. And for Ms. Aaralyn, from your presentation is very insightful. Tencent provide many key products, but on the other hand, as we know that digitalization also, have a risk, especially fraud and cyber attack, and also how you keep the data privacy in order to maintain, this purpose. So for the Pak Anand, I think I interested in your explanation that you mentioned that the importance of the technology blockchain. I want your insight. How you, what is your opinion if the central bank use the blockchain technology in order to issue digital central bank digital currency? is it work well, or is this what do you think? Because many central bank right now working on that issues, especially in the that advanced countries, they study related to the CBDC, central bank digital currency, and they're considering use blockchain technology as a DLT platform, and also use tokenization. So like in Sweden, they launched the e-Corona. Yeah, I want to your insight, what your comment about this initiative. I think this is the question for all of you. Maybe Pak Pungky, you may start first.
Sorry. The question is very good, Ameriza, and it's quite tricky as well, if I could say so. How to manage the strike and to strike the right balance between the initiative in the payment system, we as a regulator and the industry. Put this way. First of all, we would like to have same mindset with the industry. We have to have the same common interests with the industry. What the same common interest in the payment system industry related with this, our topic is to provide the most efficient way, cheap, safe, and robust non-cash transaction to the customer, and with the, of course, with the affordable price. By having those mindset, it has to be followed that any initiative, yes, it's right, the ball is on our court as regulators, but we have to involve the industry since the first. We discuss, we have authority to learn, we have authority to hear what they want, but we have to equalize with the needs of the customer as well. So the ball is on our court, and we are happy to get all information from the industry, but at the end of the day, we are the one who will decide. And our interest is to provide the better service for the customers in the payment industry. Why? Again, as I mentioned before in my presentation, is we would like to enable the customer and have interest to do the non-cash transaction. Why to do the non-cash transaction? Because by doing the non-cash transaction, the velocity of money in our country will be faster. If the velocity of money will be faster, of course, with the concern of security, with the concern of the accuracy, with the concern of the consumer protection, it will increase the domestic, the gross domestic product or economic growth. So again, how to manage and to strike the right balance? We learn the industry, we learn from the customer as well, and we equalize the interest between the industry and the customer, but with the same purpose, to provide the better service for the customer and as country as a whole. Thank you, Pak Ameriza.
Very good answer, Pak Pungky. Next, Miss Aaralyn, please, your time.
Hi, thank you. So I think the question, if I understand it right, it's about two things: how do we manage fraud and how do we manage data privacy. I'll address the data privacy question first. So actually in Tencent, we have this approach to data protection. We call it the privacy by design kind of concept, because, you know, people trust our platform. They use it every day for all their essential services. They use it to chat and essentially do everything in a single day, right? So, you know, having that trust means that we have that responsibility on how do we use that. Yeah, so there are a couple of things that Tencent does. I think one of it is that we have very robust data protection mechanisms. We have got the right engines that ensure that the data is being protected. And then number two, it's, you know, as a user, you have the right to consent to how your data is being used. So within the WeChat app, for example, within the settings, you can actually set, you know, what kind of data you want to, you know, well, what is your data consent? So the user has the autonomy to dictate this. So this is on the data side. And from fraud perspective, every transaction that WeChat, WeChat Pay takes as well, we score it, we look at threat monitoring, we look at fraud protection and security, and each of these transactions are screened actively to make sure that they are safe for users. And the other thing is that any merchants that come on board for WeChat Pay, they have to be properly KYM'd as well, Know Your Merchants protocol. And we also have strict rules in terms of what are the high-risk merchants that we cannot bring on board. So some of these rules are actually shared, and this is something we work closely with both regulators and with our merchant partners, our payment partners on to ensure that whoever is on our ecosystem, they are considered safe merchants, and they are also screened regularly as well. Hopefully that addresses the question.
Okay, thank you. Next, Pak Anand, you can
Sure. Okay, I'll try and keep it short, right? You asked me about CBDC, right? Yeah. There are probably few things that I want to touch about, right? Obviously, the current form of central bank money definitely has some limitations, right? That needs to be observed, right? First of all, the notes itself, they're obviously paper, they are in analog mode, they are not in digital mode, right? Secondly, the central bank reserves are local within the country, and there is sort of a very highly restricted access, right? It's not possible to access it freely. Of course, it depends on monetary policy as well, but nevertheless, the access is controlled, right? Overall, internationally, also among the central banks, the international liquidity is a bit constrained, right? It's not easy to sort of freely exchange money there, right? And monetary policy can be sort of facilitated through only a very narrow transmission channel, right? It's not like unlike your commercial banks. Whenever you want to make a movement through a monetary policy, you have very few options from a central bank point of view, right? So the reason why we should look at CBDC, of course, all central banks are discussing and debating it, right? A number of reasons. From a technology point of view, obviously it is fully digital, right? It's easy to move around. It allows the possibility for diversification, right? So you can diversify into many different systems, right? Not limited to one system. Diversify into many different assets also, right? So as a result, you increase access, you increase resilience, you increase autonomy of that central bank money also to some extent, right? Of course, while still central bank being able to fully control the flow of it, right? The other debate that is very interesting is CBDC is not only about, for example, either retail payments or wholesale payments, right? It's not about retail CBDC or wholesale CBDC. It is also about other financial market infrastructures, right? So how can you buy stocks and settle in CBDC? How can other markets, right? So like, for example, Indonesia can participate in the Singapore market, and will CBDC enable that seamlessly, right? That settlement aspect between different financial instruments, but also that settlement aspect across borders, that will be an interesting phenomenon, right? That's one of the debates, right? And from an access point of view, we believe that moving to CBDC broadens the access to central bank money, right? The central bank has more options to sort of not only issue but also distribute, right? The other aspect of it, which is a debate, is kind of when a central bank issues a CBDC, how can it coexist with other private CBDC, other private digital currencies that already exist in the market today, right? Those things are some of the considerations, right? But from our point of view, if a central bank issues the CBDC, definitely there is some intrinsic value behind, right? Because you've seen a number of digital currencies or tokens issued by a number of private players that do not have any intrinsic value, right? It's just offered in the market, and because of speculation, the value of that asset goes up. However, when a CBDC is issued by the central bank, obviously it has got some intrinsic value. It's got a lot of credibility, right? You got to take note of the credibility of the issuer of the money. And in this case, when central bank issues the digital currency, then it becomes fully credible. And as a result, the functionality or the usage of that CBDC can be extended broadly, right? Immediately can be used in all the markets. Of course, the underlying technology has to be updated to support that, right? So in that sense, I'll sort of conclude by saying, definitely, following the examples of Sweden, but also following, Singapore's Project Ubin, as well as the cross-border link that was achieved between Singapore and Canada, Project Ubin, Project Jasper, all these are sort of initiatives in the making. But definitely CBDC offers you a lot more portability, right? It is digital, so it need not reside within the country. It can circulate outside the country as well. As a result, it is more portable. It is also programmable, right? A CBDC offers, especially a blockchain or DLT based one, right? Which is usually the case. There is this possibility of using smart contracts and being able to restrict certain conditional usages, right? You can probably track the life cycle of that money as well that is issued, or maybe you can restrict it for certain types of usages only, right? So that programmability is a very interesting aspect that does not exist in the current paper form of money, right? I think that is an interesting aspect that central banks should consider and start looking more actively at CBDC, right? I'll stop there, Pak. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Pak Anand. It's very interesting and very insightful. I think we have a lot of information from you. And lastly, Mr. Dilip, before you answer the question, you got another question from Vigo Fabian, one of participant. Vigo Fabian asked about the similarity between India and Indonesia. India and Indonesia have similarity in some ways. We have many payment players, both bank and non-bank, and the society also differs from small, medium, and large. The digital literacy and financial literacy is also our homework. Currently, we have faced a pandemic era, which may worsening the digital divide. So, what is the NPCI strategy to orchestrate the industry to change and ensure all the stakeholders moving forward to the same direction and inclusive for all people? So it is the question related to the issues that whether the NPCI have the right to regulate the market, and then how you orchestrate it. Yeah, it is relevant to the previous question. Please, time is yours.
So thank you for this question. Again, great questions. The answer to the first question is most of the time, principle which has been followed in India while designing the payment system, the payment system at the center of every design is the customer, right? So what are the rights for the customer if the payments are failed, if the payments are not going through, and all the aspects of the payment system actually revolves around that. Just to give you one example, the recently Reserve Bank of India has asked all the authorized license entities to implement the online dispute resolution, right? So the customer will have a right to have the channel, whether it's a mobile app, whether it's a IVR, whether it's a internet, to raise that complaint for the resolution on a real-time basis. So that is the kind of thing which we believe will empower the user and will help to increase the trust on the payment system at an overall perspective. So whatever design what you do, if you keep the customer at its central, it's much easier for us to derive the functionality, to derive the roles and responsibility of all the players participating is much easier at a high level. The second question is we are not a regulator. We are in that sense is a licensed entity by the RBI, and we have a two-tier model for deciding the rules and regulation for the payment systems which are operated by us. The one is, we have the industry participated by banks and non-bank steering committees, right? Which is mostly responsible for the rule making and the decision making for the participants. For the rules that may not be decided by the steering committee, we can take the consultation or the approval from the Reserve Bank of India for the changes in our products. So that is a high level the role what we play in the Indian payment ecosystem.
Okay, thank you. I mean that in the steering committee, is there any representative from the central bank?
No, the central bank, there is no central bank representative in the steering committee.
Okay. Okay, I think we are running out of time. Before I end this session, I give you 1 minute for make a concluding statement, starting from Mr. Dilip, please.
So I think this has been an extremely learning experience back for me, participating back with all the panel participants, and I thank them for giving such an insightful presentation and responses. And it was a lot of things to learn for me. And I believe the digital payments in the post-COVID era is going to be core to every developing country and the developed countries government and the central bank, and it will be our moral responsibility to provide the safe and secure contactless the cost-effective payment systems to the citizens in this world.
Okay,
thank you.
Thanks. Pak Anand, please.
Yeah, definitely. First, I would like to say terima kasih, right? Definitely, thanks for giving me this opportunity. But also, right, Aaralyn already made this comment earlier, right? COVID-19 is a blessing in disguise, right? So definitely, while the pandemic, while a lot of lives have been lost and all that, it has increased the collective social responsibility of everybody, right, including consumers, but also financial institutions, right? And we just need to make sure that we take advantage of it and make sure we provide socially responsible services to consumers, right, as financial institutions, right? Increase digital payments, but also prevent fraud and being able to resolve disputes and making it easier, etc. Right? So definitely focus on the experience, make it easier, and hope to see all of you again. Right? Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. In Javanese, thank you is matur nuwun. Ya, Pak Pungky usually said matur nuwun. Next, Miss Aaralyn, please.
Right. So first of all, terima kasih as well. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak at this event. I've learned so much from everyone else. And I think the key takeaway for me is that through this pandemic period, we have seen within WeChat's ecosystem, people build, brands and businesses build new ideas using the WeChat pillars, like the mini programs and official accounts and advertising. But a lot of these ideas came from the industry itself. It came from the businesses. All we did was to provide a set of toolbox, and the creativity just kind of poured out, right? And that was really humbling for my personal view, because there was just so much that even we at WeChat and Tencent actually learned from the industry, that all these new products got launched on our ecosystem, you know, with the hotels, quarantine hotels, they were using digital concierge and so on. So I think what it means for the industry going forward is that we hope to work very closely, you know, with the industry players, with regulators, with closely with Indonesian merchant community as well, to keep growing this ecosystem. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Aaralyn. Lastly, I give special for Pak Pungky for your ultimate concluding statement. Pak Pungky, please. Unmute, please, Pak Pungky.
Thank you, Pak Ameriza. Thank you, all the panelists. I learned a lot from you all. First thing I would like to say that for concluding remark is to improve our service to the community, to the customer in this payment system industry. It's not just only depend on the regulators of the industry. The most important thing here is, like our colleague from Tencent mentioned, is the ecosystem. So our KPI is to satisfy the ecosystem, to satisfy the customer. How to satisfy the customers? It is we have to provide the best service, which is very efficient, secure, robust, and with the affordable price for them. We, Indonesian, which is more or less like India, we have to think and we have to do it very carefully. We do innovative, but it has to support. So it has to be supported by the excellent infrastructure, excellent regulation, excellent research, and excellent policy. That's my concluding remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Pungky. Matur nuwun. I think I believe that we got all the participants got a lot of insightful and fruitful discussion, and we got a lot of knowledge, yeah, from all of you, the speaker. And I would like to thank for your contribution. Yeah, I hope that sometime, maybe in the near future, Bang Yusa will invite you again to discuss more specific issues like CBDC and NPCI, Pak Pungky. I think we can continue our relationship. Thank you very much for all of you. Have a good day. Thank you very much, and I back to the master ceremony.
Thank you, Ameriza. Thank you, Pak. Thank you, Ibu. Thank you.